Jazz Nolan on the 11th of March 2020, recording for Lights Up at Kiln Theatre. Please can you introduce yourself and tell me where and when you were born and what you do?
My name is Indy Rubersingham and I am Artistic Director of Kiln Theatre, and I was born in Sheffield in 1970, but I grew up in Mansfield from 1976.
That's really nice. Can you please tell me more about your connection to the East Midlands and growing up?
Yeah, so I went to primary school in Mansfield till secondary school, and then I went to secondary school in Nottingham. So I did sort of GCSEs and A-levels in Nottingham, and I hated Mansfield. Could not wait to get out of Mansfield. It was a very small town kind of place, and I was desperate to get down to London. I loved Nottingham. I loved growing up in Nottingham and hanging out in Nottingham. But yeah, interesting part of the world.
Yeah. Who did you live with in Nottingham?
I lived with my parents and my brother. Yeah.
And what did they do for work?
So my father was an eye specialist at Kingsmill Hospital. My mum didn't work, and my younger brother, obviously in that area, grew up. He actually loved that area, and he ended up living in Nottingham for a long time. He's now in London, but he worked in Nottingham for a very long time.
Nice, so a nice connection with East Midlands then.
Yeah.
What was your first memory of theatre?
Oh, wow, interesting. Right, so I remember we got taken by school to Stratford-upon-Avon to see the RSC quite a few times. I didn't enjoy it. It was like I never went to see plays and was like blown away. I didn't fall in love with theatre. But I think my first memory it would have been through school, in secondary school. I don't think I went, So it was quite old. Do you know what I mean? It was 12, 13 through school.
Was there a show that you went to see that really triggered you and you thought, I want to work in theatre now?
So there were two things that happened. So when I was at school, when we were 16, we had work experience, and I was on a science trajectory and terrible at the art subjects. We got given a work experience at school. And as a joke, I put TV, film and theatre, not thinking I'd get any of them. And also in that time and in that area, there wasn't TV and film being made in the East Midlands. So I wasn't really aware of anything going on. So what happened was that when I was 16, I got work experience. They put me at Nottingham Playhouse, and I got to work backstage with stage management, and I just fell in love with that world. Part of it was it was summer, so it was really hot, and Nottingham Playhouse had this brilliant outdoors bit. And I really remember specifically walking out at 5 o'clock to go and have my tea, and I was in my cool clothes because I just felt I was cool at 16. And then and watching everyone leave their offices at that time, and all in suits and looking really grey. And yet the world that I was part of felt very colourful and alive. I also got really excited I was buttering the bread for the props and sweeping the stage, and I just found that world really magical. So it was just feeling that I was entering a very magical space that I found very exciting. So that was the first thing. And the play that really meant a lot to me was The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer, and I saw that at Nottingham Playhouse. And that was a contemporary play. It was the first time I'd seen a contemporary play, because up until then I'd been taken to see Shakespeare's at school. But I saw this contemporary play in the 80s about the AIDS crisis, which was a really big thing growing up at that time. And seeing a play that was talking about something now that was political just blew my mind. So it was between that play and that work experience that made me go, I love this world. What I really loved about the theatre I was seeing is it was saying something about my world now, saying something that I really cared about and was really worried about. And I remember it made me cry. It moved me, and I think that's what happened to me then at 6. I was 16, 17. I realised is the power of theatre, and that if you can make someone think, change their opinion, see the world in a different way, by moving them emotionally.
So from your work experience at Nottingham Playhouse, how could you describe your own personal journey into the industry after?
Yeah. So, my journey was really kind of convoluted. So I was on, like I said earlier, I was on this trajectory on sciences, and I fell in love with this idea of theatre, but didn't know what I wanted to do at all. But just knew that this was a world I wanted to be part of. And at that time, I only knew about actors and stage management. I didn't know anything else. And also, so I wanted to do a drama degree, but I was doing science A levels, so I had to take a year off. Well, I was always planning a year off, but I had to do an English A level because I couldn't get into a drama degree without an English A level at the time. And so I went to Clarendon College in Nottingham to do that. What I found really interesting was that I had to persuade my parents to allow me to do a drama degree because they were a bit worried about, like, that's not a normal degree. And I just don't know now. I didn't have to pay student fees, which people have to do now. And it always worries me now whether I would have been able to do that if I had to pay fees. So I had to do this English A level to get into this drama degree, and I started my degree feeling utterly intimidated because everyone on my course had been part of National Youth Theatre, had done a drama A level, had been going to the theatre since they were 6. They knew what they wanted to do. So I totally felt in my first year I was doing the wrong course, didn't know anything, had never heard of Brecht. There was just lots of things I hadn't heard of, and I was doing this degree. And so I didn't do courses. I just didn't feel worthy enough. So I didn't do courses, I didn't do the directing course. I didn't do things because I felt very intimidated. So in the summer of my first year, I was quite angry with myself. I was going, you're here to learn, and you're already stopping yourself learning because of yourself and your own fears. So I made myself, because I hadn't done the directing course, I made myself direct a play in my second year. And that was another light bulb moment of directing, because I felt for the first time I could combine my science, my quite analytical scientific brain, with this creative, intuitive side. And I loved it. I absolutely fell in love with it. It was suddenly I felt really comfortable in something. I knew I wasn't an actress. It was terrible. And so what happened was so then I was like, oh, this is really good, but I'm doing this as a student. I don't know what a professional theatre director does. So then I got obsessed with everything directing, and also this play, I was very lucky. It selected for the National Student Drama Festival, and Phyllida Lloyd and Fiona Shaw, who are high-profile people in the industry now, and then absolutely took me aside and said, you're a director, keep going, which was kind of the confidence boost I needed at that time. And then it made me get really obsessed about directing. Directed as much as I could at university, in the summer at youth theatres, and in my dissertation in my final year went and observed professional directors, and then moved to London to see what I could do.
What would you say makes good directing?
One of the things, so the director is a leader, but it doesn't mean that they know everything. So one of the main responsibilities for a theatre director is creating the atmosphere in the room, creating a space that is safe for as much creativity to happen. So that's what a director is primarily responsible for, the energy and the space in the room. The other thing is to be able to bring the best out of everybody that you're working with, whether it's the designer, whether it's the lighting designer, as well as the actors and the playwright. So it's being able to read people. It's emotional intelligence is really important, as well as an understanding of what you're trying to do. And then it's almost like you are the captain of a ship or an aircraft or something like that, but you can only work, you are only as good as everyone else is in your team. And it's a really frustrating role on one hand, because you have the power, but your power is only valuable if you've got equal people in the room who feel as empowered and as brilliant. So by what I mean by example, by that is that as a director you're responsible for casting. Now if you cast someone who isn't right, you can't do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? So you are only as good as the tools and the people you're working with. So that's what I kind of mean by that, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, and I think that's a nice way to put it, I think. So as a director, what drives you to do your job?
I don't know. No, what drives me to do my job? Oh my God, I think it is absolute passion. I really believe in the theatre. I really believe in that collective experience that you have, that's a shared experience, that and the stories you can tell. And also with theatre, because there's less money involved than like film and TV, you can be political, you can be more risky, you can be edgier on the stories you tell. A real driving passion when I was starting was I just wanted to see different types of people and different stories on the stage. I was sort of fed up of being told what my narrative was or what it meant to be British, or and it was quite it's got better, but it was even more singular when I was growing up, and so I've always loved theatre. It's not an easy profession. There's not much money into it, and I think that's a hard bit when you're starting. How do you survive? And also coming to terms with the fact that you're never going to make big money, and are you okay with that? And so for me, it's been a real drive. It's a real. Sometimes I've gone, why am I in this world? Because it is a tough world, but it is absolutely a passion and a drive to tell stories and to work in a collaborative art form. That's the other bit. I love the collaboration of it. It's not like other art forms where it's like, say, for example, if you're an artist, you're working on your own, or if you're a musician, you can be on your own or in a group. But it only exists because you're working as a team. You can't do it on your own. And I also really like that aspect of it.
I like that as well. And you clearly really, really love your job. So I would really like to know, if you had 3 words, how would you describe it?
My job. All-consuming. Oh my God, you're going to hear all negative words. All-consuming, responsible, or responsibility. Responsibility and heart.
I like that. I like the use of heart. So if you weren't a director,
If I weren't a director, what would I
would
do?
you have gone down the science route, or would you have gone to do something completely different?
The only thing I think, when I've thought of that, if I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? It would be medicine. Because I'm obsessed with medical dramas. And I love hospitals. So I think whether I would have got in or been any good. And that's what's really interesting about the arts compared to something like the science. And I think that's what the struggle I had to find was that with the science, or definitely up until 18, was that you knew whether something was right. If you were doing a maths equation, or if you were doing, there's a methodology, and then there's a conclusion, and there's your results, of that. And what I found hard with the arts was like, there isn't a right or wrong. And it was like learning to trust my own opinion, with sciences, you're basing a lot of it on fact, and you have to back all your theories by someone else's or some proof of some kind. Whereas with the arts, it's not that. And I used to think, when I used to get frustrated with the world I was in, I was like, hey, at least if I was a doctor, people would die or live, and it'd be really clear cut whether I was good or bad. Whereas it's so subjective in the arts, and the lesson or the journey for me is actually trying to really hear and know what my voice is in that.
Would you say that theatre could be used as a type of medicine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think if you think about the origins of theatre, it's religious, but it's also the shaman comes from like in really ancient cultures. It was the shaman was the storyteller, but the shaman was the healer in those communities as well. So the storyteller and the healer was the same person in very ancient societies. And I think actors are today's shamans in theatre, because through them, through an actor, you are communicating a truth or a story that is being shared with an audience, and both are affecting each other. And I think emotional healing absolutely can come through that. And I think emotional well-being and mental health is absolutely, it's proven that when people participate in the arts and culture, it absolutely gives them huge well-being and is really vital. So participation in the arts is really important for our well-being
Yeah,
and our mental health and everything like that, yeah.
yeah, I really do agree with that. So going back to your kind of journey, was there anybody that you could pinpoint and say, yeah, they really inspired me and really championed me to do this?
Well, my parents were, even though they were like, what is this or whatever, I wouldn't have gone on my journey without their support. And they're kind of going, okay, you're telling us that this is something that you want to do, we'll believe you. So I think they were really fundamental, even though they didn't know anything about theatre. The other person that was really amazing for me was an actor called Satiki Koyate. He was based in France, but originally from Burkina Faso in West Africa. So Satiki Koyate, because he had this West African tradition, and he was a griot from Burkina Faso, and the griot is the storyteller, but then he was like an international theatre actor, and so I went on a couple of courses with him, but he took me under his wing and sort of kind of championed me a lot.
Nice. When do you think your career in theatre really began?
Well, it's really... So I think a career in theatre is very rarely straightforward for anybody, if you talk to anybody. Anybody truthfully. Because when I think about, right early on, I got amazing opportunities. So I literally came out of university. I was an assistant director at Stratford East. I got this position. So I got to assist people like Mike Lee, as well as the Panto, and I was 23. I directed my first professional show when I was 24. So like the beginning of my career was like, oh, these things are really happening kind of fortuitously. Then it got really difficult, and I was like, and there was one moment where I was directing at the National, the Royal Court, and Chichester, 3 high-profile venues in a year, then was unemployed for the following year, couldn't get arrested. So whenever I talk to younger directors who are always getting frustrated about their career, like my career isn't where it should be, and I kind of go, it's going to be up and down. There isn't this trajectory, like this ladder, like unlike other professions, and so I had incredible opportunities when I was in my early 20s, again in my early 30s, and again in my 40s. So it's gone in very different ways. I think also being a woman and a woman of colour was very different when I started, but I don't regret any of it, because all of it has informed me, and even at the toughest times, when I questioned whether was I good enough, should I be doing this, what came back was, this is all I really want to do. And actually realising that this is all I wanted to do when it was really tough was more important than everything going really well and just going, oh, this is what I really want to do. It's because then you really find your calling.
Yeah. Following from that, you talked about being a woman and a woman of colour. Would you say that was your biggest setback, or is there something else that you could say?
I wouldn't say it's a setback. It is who you are, and actually informs everything. It's a mixture of it's it informs who I am, it informs what I'm interested in. So it's not a setback at all. It is who I am, and there's no. But it is what is interesting. It's what makes me individual and specific, and and also makes me question the world in a different way than say a white man. But it and has made my journey probably different to a white man. But I don't see it as a setback.
No, I like that. I like that attitude a lot. So not being a setback, again, you talked about kind of having like the zigzag uncontrollable kind of career. How did you cope with that? How did you persevere and tell yourself that you can keep doing?
I think you have to surround yourself with really good people. You have to find out who your tribe. And again, this is something I say to younger people: find your tribe, find your real tribe, and who are they? Because they are the people that are going to hold you when it's low, when you're low, and as well as be there. Everyone's going to be around when you're a huge success, but who's going to be there when things are tough and not as easy? And know that it's a long game. Where we live in a world where we want results immediately. We need to be like superstars by the time we're 28. Do you know what I mean? We live in this kind of crazy kind of sense of like time, but it's a long game, and it's actually how do you manage a career that is going to span 30, 40 years, 50 years. Also, it's really important that you manage your reputation. How do you want people to see you? How do you want to behave? So the things that you have control of, and just keep working, thinking, being inspired, and surrounding yourself with people that make you feel good about yourself, as opposed to people that make you feel insecure about yourself.
It sounds kind of like the life is what you make it kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's very easy to. It's not very easy. We often think that we are the victims of something that's happened. Like, oh, I haven't got this job because of this. I'm not there because of A, B, and C. And what I find really interesting is self-examine. What are the obstacles we're internally placing on ourselves? What makes us think we don't think we're good enough? And changing that narrative for yourself, because you're the only person that can change that.
Yeah. So, because you've surrounded yourself with these great people and you've got this great attitude, is that what
It's taken a lot of hard work.
That's the hard part. Would you say that it's the people that make you most enjoy your job, or is there something else?
Oh, absolutely. It's about the people. It's totally about the people. It's totally about who you're working with, and also it's curiosity. You see, that is one thing I should have said when you said 3 words. It's and also it's I should have. That is the fundamentally most important thing: is curiosity. You have to be curious about the world you live in, about people, and other stories and other perspectives. What I love about the job is that I have learned so much about other worlds, other cultures, other people. You also have to really engage with empathy, because you have to be able to walk in someone else's shoes. And so when I'm directing a play, it's always about how do we make the characters rounded, because what theatre lives in, the other thing that I love about theatre is that we live in the area of grey, that complex area. We're not black and white. Things aren't good or bad. And sort of going back to the question you asked me about influences. So one of the influences one of the things that I learned from Satigi is that he said there's always your truth, my truth, and then there's another truth that's beyond us. And in theatre, we're striving for that other truth that isn't about your perspective or my perspective, but finding that something that is a bit more complex.
What isn't quite so good about your job? Is there something that you don't like?
There's lots of things I don't like. Okay. Well, it's always about people, isn't it? Because, and I say that to members of my team if they've got issues or whatever, and I remember someone, when I first started this job, someone said to me, the hardest thing about this job will be people. So the best bit of the job and the worst bit of the job is people, because everyone brings their stuff into it, and you're having to manage. Is that, how do I help that person do the best that they can? So there's people, it's money, fundraising, working in theatre is we're always on a very knife edge financially. So, for example, it's always balancing the needs. I want to keep ticket prices really low because I want theatre to be accessible to as many people as possible. But we have to also fund it. We also have to put those shows on. We have to pay people. So it's having the resources. Resources are always very tight in theatre. It takes up all my time.
A lot of people have said time, actually, about time management.
Yeah.
So taking a break kind of from your job,
Yeah.
kind of looking at the industry itself, I kind of like to address the industry for women.
Yeah.
And what have you noticed as a woman in the industry?
I personally think I'm quite curious what's going to happen. So when I started, when I moved down to London, it was hilarious. So, you know, like you guys, like as a student, I got attracted to theatre and the arts because I thought it was really avant-garde. It was like all the free thinkers, the more free spirit people. Moved down to London and I feel like I'm the last bastion of the British Empire. Do you know what I mean? Everyone was Oxbridge. All the artistic directors were men. They'd all been to, Oxford or Cambridge. And I was like going, what world have I, as a student, come into professionally? But like, if you look around the country, and you look in London, the artistic directors now, the variety of artistic directors. So I became an artistic director here in 2012. And at the time, it was like a bit of a thing that was one or two of us female artistic directors. So what I noticed, what I feel in the last 10, 15 years, I've noticed a lot more, there's a lot more emerging female directors coming out, which is great. And the leadership around a lot of London theatres is a real mixture of, there's Kwame, at the Young Vic, there's Nadia Fall. There's the diversity of leadership in theatres is like transformed compared to when I was younger. So that is really great. I think what's important to me, what I'm worried about, is that this is not seen, because people are going, oh, that's great, everything's changing, everything's like, and I'm like, yes, but is this going to be sustained? Do you know what I mean? How is this a one-off thing, or is this a blip in time, or what are we doing to sustain this? The other thing that I really notice, whose stories are being told, because that's where the real power is. Who has the autonomy of who's in charge of the story? So yes, it's the artistic directors, but it's also the playwrights who are telling those stories on the stage. How many parts are there for women? Who's really leading the story? Do you know what I mean? Is it a male voice or is it a female voice? And I think, and I can really subtly see the difference between female-led narratives on stage and male-led narratives. And I think there's far less female-led narratives. So we need to really, because it's not just about who's in the business. Because the one thing I've realised is, if you're going to have these changes, if we're going to transform who are the leaders, it's not just about putting people in those places. It's actually, how are those people going to disrupt and change the status quo? And so it's, we all study the traditional form of storytelling, or the Greek tragedy or the Greek comedy, and it's the hero figure who comes through a crisis and changes. But that's a very male narrative. What is the different cultural narratives? How is that going to change it? Different sexualities, as well as gender. So it's like, how are we going to disrupt the status quo? How are we going to disrupt structures? And that's what I think needs to happen more for it. And it's not just about, and also it's about the ecology of theatre, of the industry. So it's not just about who's in theatres, it's who's reviewing theatres, who's deciding what's good or bad, you know, who are the critics, what are drama schools doing? Do you know what I mean? Where's the pipeline? What I'm really worried about the pipeline of, like, you know, people of your generation coming in. How much money do you need from your parents or your backgrounds in order to come into the industry? So, and therefore, if that pipeline is narrower than, say, when I was a student, who's going to be informing what the industry is?
Could you identify any advantages of being a woman in the industry?
But that's what I mean. That's why this is a really interesting time, because you know, with everything that's happening with the Me Too movement, and I think, and you know, what I'm loving about this moment in time is that these questions are being asked. Quite a lot of things that I knew was happening when I was younger in the industry is being exposed, and you can't turn a blind eye in the same way that you have been able to for. So it's a really potentially powerful moment to kind of go, no, I'm not taking that. I want to change this, and I'm going to push you to change it. And I feel much more confident to kind of call out bad behaviour than I would have done, you know, even 10 years ago. It's a good moment. You know, things are being reflected, things are being seen, cracks are being exposed, and that's also going to cause a backlash, as we're seeing as well. But it's good. I think what is good about the moment is that we're challenging how we're making decisions. And I think there was a time when we didn't. So an interview process which was very weighted, could be very weighted again. You know, say interviews for jobs like artistic directors were often done by boards. Most of those boards were not in the theatre. There were lawyers and other positions. They wanted for their leader very kind of male attributes. And in the interview process absolutely sort of was focused on that. What I think we're now challenging is, like, who are on those interview panels. We're recognising that we're unconscious bias, and we've just got to keep pushing those processes and those structures that disadvantage different sections of society. So I think we've just got to be aware, and we are continuing to be aware of our biases. And somewhere like here, we look at that, we try and look at that all the time. Even, you know, all of us have unconscious bias. And what are we doing to address that? If we're saying we're trying to make theatre for everybody, what are we doing all the time to make sure that we're addressing that? Because we're never going to achieve that. But I think I'm quite a person half full, and so I don't, the disadvantages are always your advantages as well.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. So I know you said that you don't like to go into interviews and talk about your achievements, but I'm asking you now, what is your greatest achievement?
Oh man, sorry. I think being artistic director here and going through the whole we rebuilt this theatre. So I started something, I had no idea anything about it. I think if I'd known how hard and difficult it was, I'd have never started it. But to have created this building, to have led the process that has created this building is something I never thought. It was beyond my kind of, like, it was never even in my, it wasn't like something I said, oh yes, I can't wait to be an artistic director and lead a whole building campaign project and raise nearly £9 million and, you know, nearly kill myself in doing it. But it was never, so I'm really proud of what this theatre is doing and the people I'm working with, I think.
Nice. So is there a production that you're most proud of?
I love all my shows. They're all like babies. I never go, do you know what I mean? People go, what's your favourite? And I go, I really find that difficult because I think to direct everything I've done, I've genuinely felt really passionate and loved. And I think I have to do it. I really love Passover, which I've just done. I really love when the last two shows I've done here, I've been really proud of. When the Crows Visit was looking at gender violence in India, and then the play before that was called Wife, which was looking at gender politics through the ages, through the lens of Doll's House, Ibsen's A Doll's House. And I've loved those plays, and I've done those two plays, particular Wife and When the Crows Visit, were plays that we commissioned here, started from nothing, and have developed and grown, and yeah, I really enjoyed them.
What advice would you give your younger self?
The two things which I give myself, and I also say to other people, is it's a long game, be patient, patience, and the other thing is be yourself. Be the best version of yourself. You cannot be like someone else. You can't, we're always going, oh, that person's like that and they're doing really well. And you kind of go, oh, if I was a bit like that, I'd be better. There's no point in comparing and contrasting. You can only be the best version of yourself. People always say, follow your dream, your dreams are going, following your dream is really hard. It's not an easy choice. And there are sacrifices. Which is why I kind of go, it's patience, it's perseverance, it's find your tribe, because anything worthwhile is going to be difficult. Do you know what I mean? If it was easy, everybody could do it. So it is about, it is absolutely about perseverance.